Hey, and welcome to episode 9 of the L24 engine rebuild series. It should be pretty clear what we're about to do here. I attempted to rebuild the alternator as much as possible. And not ever having done this before, my plan was to reassemble it or sort of take it apart as much as I could. And that way I could kind of go through the aluminum parts and get the same finish that I want to on everything else. And I could take out those parts that I know are going to get zinc plated, add them to the zinc plate pile. I figured at that point, I could reassemble everything, and if it doesn't work, I can take it to an alternator shop. I didn't really know that alternator shops will sandblast stuff for you, and they'll really do a lot of that stuff for you. And long story short, at the end of, I got to a point in taking this apart where I couldn't really go any further with my tools. So I took it to the alternator shop, kind of in a box of parts, and they did a great job. If I could go back, I would have just given them the alternator to begin with, because now I'll show you in a little bit. I have it in a state where I can just take off the parts that I want to get zinc plated. I might just skip clearing the aluminum parts because they look pretty good as is. But yeah, I'll show you kind of what this disassembly process looked like before I went to the alternator shop. So as you can see here, there are quite a lot of rusty bolts here, and given my experience with the distributor, I wanted to make sure that I didn't break any more bolts. So I honestly took a few days and just kind of put more and more rust penetrant spray on there, and let it kind of work its way in there. And I did not break anything with this one. So point taken, I should be more careful and really make sure I am applying the rust penetrant spray to every bolt that looks like it might give me some problems. And then I removed this one screw up top, and then there's two nuts that hold on this plastic alternator diode cover. And these looked pretty rusty and honestly kind of brittle. These are almost to the point where I would consider trying to look for matching hardware, depending on how good they look after the zinc plating process. But yeah, I just wanted to be really careful with these. Eventually there was like a little washer thing that I had to take off of there, and then I could just pull that plastic diode cover straight off of the alternator. I removed this main nut with an electric impact driver. I cheated with this video a little bit. This was not the turn that officially made it come loose, but this was again a process of rust penetrant and then every few hours coming back with the impact driver and seeing if it would spin free. So I'm not sure how necessary this actually was, but this top part of the pulley was giving me problems, so I decided to use the 3-jaw puller on that. But then it came loose and the bottom piece came off easy, and as did that cooling fan that sits underneath it. So then I removed these 3 housing bolts that connect the 2 halves of the alternator together. They're pretty long bolts, so it just takes a while, and obviously you got to go slow considering, again, the rust situation. And then with those out and everything still together, I decided to remove these 3 center bolts here, or these center screws rather, using the handheld impact driver just to break them loose without destroying the head. I ended up separating the 2 halves by doing this, which you can see here is just kind of using a little small crowbar as a lever against it, and then I hammered on that other kind of ear of it. I did try using the puller, the 3-jaw puller on it, and I ended up chipping a part of the housing. So I feel like that's not the best method there. But again, this is something you should probably leave to the machine shop anywhere, or not the machine shop, the alternator shop rather. So like the true professional I am, I used a hammer and just kind of hammered on the edge of this to get this to separate a little bit, or at least to get this centerpiece out of it. Worked okay. I would imagine it is not the recommended way of doing that, but it did get it out of the alternator. So this is where I discovered that my tools were not going to be adequate to continue disassembling this. My soldering iron is not nearly hot enough to desolder these old joints that connect to what I believe is called the voltage rectifier, or the bridge rectifier, I believe. And that's necessary to continue doing this because you can see those wires come from the inside. You need to desolder them at that point, so then you can pull the wires through and take out some more parts in the center there. But obviously, everything started to look a lot hairier at this point, so I decided that I would take this to the alternator shop. Before I completely admitted defeat, however, I decided that I would sandblast some of these parts a little bit, and then I took my handy-dandy wire wheel drill attachment to the cooling fan here and some nuts and bolts here to kind of get things shined up as much as possible. And then I took it off to the alternator shop. So I went to this place called Best Battery here in Baltimore, where I'm located. And if you're in the area and looking to do something similar for any kind of electrical stuff, I would definitely go to them. They completely understood what I was trying to do with everything cosmetic and, appearance-wise. Obviously, it needed to work too. I have not put it into anything to test it yet, but honestly, based on how knowledgeable they were and how good it looks after they were done, I'm pretty confident that it'll work. And I'm pretty confident that if I were to go back in a few months and there's some problems, they'll be able to help me out. But yeah, I really can't recommend this place enough. I'm very happy with how it looks. I wish I would have gone there just from the beginning, but now I know that for the next time. And now when I'm ready to get things zinc plated, I can just take off those pieces and add them to the pile. Also, this was only $80, so I'm really happy with the end result here. So in keeping with the alternator theme here, I decided now would be a good time to take out these alternator brackets, which were actually painted the same color as the engine block. So I use this Duplicolor kind of combo here, just their engine enamel primer so it's high temp, withstanding. And for the actual color, I went with their Pontiac blue, which I would consider close to whatever Datsun blue is that got used on these engine blocks. And then I just primered these. I believe the instructions were for 2 coats of primer and then 3 or maybe 4 of, I did 3, I believe, of the actual paint itself. I did also on this other, the larger alternator mount piece, I guess it would be called, which is coming up in the next clip. I actually took the extra care to mask off those 3 circle portions there where it interfaces with the engine block. It's probably not necessary. In fact, I think this was probably actually painted on the block, but I figured it would be, it couldn't hurt to paint it ahead of time. And better yet, it allows me to add to my the infamous finished parts pile, which I am happy to say is starting to grow a little bit. So I think that's going to do it for this video. I just wanted to talk briefly about what I have planned for the next few videos. This stuff is going to get sent off to a blasting company. Specifically, this is like oil pan, valve cover, front cover, things that interface with the inside of the engine that you don't want to have glass bead blasted or sand blasted because you would never get all the sand out of there. Not to mention, a lot of this stuff won't even fit in my little sandblaster anyway. And, one thing I learned from my dad, who's always done all kinds of classic car restorations, he was telling me, he goes, Mark, you can't do everything yourself on this stuff. You'll go crazy. I think this was around the time of the distributor debacle, but he's definitely right. It was very satisfying to take that alternator to someone who's a professional and did a great job of it. And, they were completely respectful of what I was trying to accomplish cosmetically. So I that definitely opened my eyes a little bit, and I want to do a little bit more with this as it comes kind of to the, the final stretch with these peripherals and small pieces that I want to work with people who know what they're doing, because it'll end up saving me a lot of time and money anyway. But other than that, I just kind of have my pile of, I would say, reference parts. Like I literally took off spark plugs and labeled them, just so I could always look back at them if I ever, for whatever reason, wanted to reference that. And this is reference parts and parts that are going to be replaced. So you can see like right on the top there, that fan. I'm working on getting that from Nissan, who I believe still makes those, the plastic fans. The oil pump is inside there. And then somewhere inside here, there's also the water pump. And I decided that I will not be rebuilding these because they're extremely affordable from a new distributor that I actually signed on with. Or I'm actually the distributor, they're my supplier. But I'm going to have oil pumps and water pumps in stock, and I'm just going to use my parts for that. And I would love, if we get to that point, if you guys would also be interested in purchasing those. I'll show you them as soon as they come in. But yeah, I will not be rebuilding those. So I might be moving on to this pile of miscellaneous parts. It'll probably be a pretty boring video next, just kind of wire wheeling bolts and little odd small parts and things like that. And then some point in the future, I'm going to start tearing into these carburetors. I'm probably going to take this intake manifold off here pretty quickly and add it to that sandblast pile, or just a blasting pile to take to that company, and let them take care of that. But yeah, I think that's kind of between the carburetors and the miscellaneous pile, that's kind of what you have to expect I also spoke with the engine builder today, the machine shop, and he said that they're still super swamped. I was asking him about soda blasting, and he was saying that they are getting ready to start on my engine in the next few days here. So maybe within a month or so, maybe 2 months, they will be fully done. I don't want to pressure them because I want them to take their time and not have it be a rush job. And also, as you can see, I'm not quite ready here myself. So, but anyway, that is going to do it for this video. Thank you for watching. I appreciate some of the comments I've been getting, and I hope these videos are helpful. And I would love to see you in the next one. Thank you.